came out to greet him, paying respect him, and apologized for what happened along the route in 1994. So after this picture was taken, the criticism came up about his role. That some would say after this news broadcast that is Mahaprabhu now with the defection of Khmer already, or did he support Khmer actually, something like that. And so after that, many reporter or journalists went to interview Mahaprabhu. If you support Khmer, or if you empathetic most with the Khmer factions, and what he responds to the reporter or journalist is การสร้างเมตตาพอทมินพรมแดน meaning that the propagation of compassion is borderless. So I have an impression that one friend of mine who worked in Cambodia for decades, he used to work in a camp, in a refugee camp along the border. And when he worked in the camp, he worked in the faction of Sun San, or the Republican factions. And when he first met with Mahaprabhu went to him and saying, do you know what's the reason why you're working here? Mahaprabhu asked my friend. And my friend said, I'm working here because of the humanity. I want to help the refugee out of this condition. I have some kind of sympathy to work with humanity, something like this. And then Mahaprabhu reminded him, if you work for this camp only, on the one hand, you help the poor people, you help the refugee. But another side of the same camp is military, fighting against other factions. So what are you doing? What are you doing here? You are supporting the violence at another side of the camp. So this is the idea of the name of the book you may have read, Step by Step. He said when you walk, this is also the concept of the peace march, when you walk, you have to use two foots, right? One foot is compassion, another foot is wisdom. If you use only compassion without wisdom can cause the great suffering. By using this example of my friend working in the camp, he remind him. That's why after that, this friend followed him and working with him until actually Mahaprabhu passed away already, but his legacy remains in this country, and this friend still working on his legacy. Okay, that makes sense. And this is also the one who grew up from this march. His name is Venerable Yohot. He walked with Dhammayatra in the early years. And his origin came from Private province, one of the poorest provinces in Cambodia. And nowadays he led meditation class for everybody in Wat Angkar. But many foreigners or our foreign friends like to study meditation with him in the evening. And another project I used to visit is in his hometown in Previn province. He set up a hospital and he donated this hospital to the state. But the support of this hospital is because he has a connection with the Khmer from abroad. Like in France, he has connection with the Khmer monastery in France. So he raised funding from there and bringing in the medical volunteers from France to work in this hospital, and also medicine from donations. Next slide, please. The next one, Venerable Yen Teng. His origin is from Sweden. He used to work with Tamiyatra before, at the earlier year of the march. Sweden and Preve, these two provinces are the poorest province in Cambodia. And after he worked with Tamiyatra, and when he left, he set up his own organization as Kittisenee, meaning the Army of Peace. He graduated PhD from India, and then he tried to set up the projects in his home province. This is also the people connected to Tamiyatra in the earlier years. Next slide, please. And this is a prominent monk in northwestern Cambodia. His name is Venerable Bun Salot. Now he is acting as a chief monk of Udon province. And the famous project of him is protecting a large piece of forest in Udon province, or Dambon Opal. It's a rich forest over there, as he witnessed harsh deforestation after the war in his hometown, Udon. So normally he's not staying at the temple. At normal time he would stay in the forest, taking care of this piece of land and the forest there. Next slide, please. He's Venerable Salot, also a member of Tamiyatra before. And the mission of Tamiyatra continues even though Mahakusananda passed away like 5 years already. This is also, I'm also a part of this. We walk into different directions, different districts each year, once a year in March. Why we organize in March? Because the March is the month in which Mahakusananda passed away. So we commemorate his legacy. And it's also the month of monks' vacation, because after their study, they will have their summer in March only. After that, they have to restart the next semester. So we went to several provinces, distributing the Dharma leaflets and books. He provides books to the school library and community temples. We invited monks to teach the basic concepts of Buddhism to the students in the rural schools, and giving water blessing to the people along the route. When we walk in the long distance, we can observe people are waiting for water blessing along the road. So it's an impressive picture of contact between people and animals. Next slide, please. And we also teach the school students how to meditate briefly, just getting to know how to observe one's own breath. And this is the organizer, one of the organizers of the Tamiyatra. She's a lay woman, very competent and professional in training and teaching school students. and very devoting. Okay, this is all. I provide you some examples about socially engaged Buddhism, both in countries of mainland Southeast Asia and especially examples from Cambodia. Any questions?
So you had a lot of examples of monks who practice engaged Buddhism. I'm wondering, like, what can the average lay person do to also do engaged Buddhism, like in their daily life?
In their daily life? Actually, the concept of engaged Buddhism in this practice, they see their practice not only inside the temple compound, but they value their mindfulness. They value mindfulness not only in the temple compound, but they have to practice it everywhere in your daily life. So the house can be the temple. If like some family members are suffering and you help them and you take care of them, and people take care of each other with mindfulness. So that can also be the temple as well. You see, you have to keep in mind that I have shown you the period where the religion and the state and the secular has been separated from each other, right? So this kind of socially engaged Buddhism trying to bring back this kind of relation or the practice of the religious practice back into people's life or people's daily life. Actually, for me, it's not anything. It's just reclaiming the spiritual territory back into your life. Questions?
Before his enlightenment, when the Buddha asked, "How can I get out of this cycle?" how did he know there was a cycle?
You have to imagine if you were a prince surrounded by thousands of concubines and property, as you can imagine, in a beautiful palace, like the 3 seasons of palace. You have everything with you. And you can see only the beautiful side of life. But during that night, when the prince tried to escape the palace and see the reality outside the palace, and then when he see the suffering of the people, like getting old, being ill, and being died, and finally he find samana or monkhood as the beautiful status or beautiful mode of life, very peaceful mode of life. So he questioned himself by being upset from seeing these kind of things outside the palace, because this is the thing he never seen before in his palace compound. That's why he was hit by the reality.
Just adding to that though, was he aware, the Buddha in the life when he became a Buddha, was he already practicing a religion or I guess following the belief that there is karma and reincarnation? I know that those beliefs had been out there before. That wasn't anything that he, I guess, realized or created, was it? Was it something that he already had believed through like Brahmanism or Hinduism or whatever was the current belief at the time?
Okay, I think I have made a little bit shortcoming for him. After he saw this, or after he was hit by the reality of life, that is being getting old, being ill and being died, he questions himself if he also be in this cycle of suffering. And then he realized that he cannot avoid this reality. One day he would get old, one day he would get ill, and one day he would get died. That's why finally he saw, but Samana or the monkhood, the last figure he saw, is the nice one. He looks unshaken by this reality. That's why he asked himself, what is the way getting out of this cycle? The cycle that he cannot avoid, getting into this cycle. And for your question, I'm not sure if I'm answering your question. We have to keep in mind that the Buddha himself's family is Hindu, like his father, his mother, and so on. But after that, they converted into Buddhism. But if you read the stories in Buddha's lifetime, you can see many occasions he had to use miracles or the wise saying or many strategy to make his relatives, even his father, trying to change his mind or trying to believe in the core teaching of Buddhism. Because as you see, his family is a very old family in India, Sakya, and they believe in Hinduism thousands of years. So when one child of our family got enlightened, you know how difficult he had to change their mind.
But so if I'm understanding you correctly, the idea of like rebirth and being in this continual cycle was already present, but he was just realizing that the way he was living was not going to get him out of it, and he needed to find then this middle way to get out of this cycle, which was already something he was aware of in life for Hinduism. That is correct at all?
So like the cycle, that comes from Hinduism.
Right.
And Buddhism came from coming out of the cycle.
Right. Like coming up with a new solution because he saw the lack. I guess, the lack in Hinduism to get out of the cycle.
The way I explain Buddhism for him is about explaining about the teaching of Buddhism. But if we talk about the history of religion, is another thing. We have to remind that the period of India when Buddhism was born is the period when the Brahmanism or the ancestor of Hinduism was decaying because of too much rituals, too much miracles or something like that. And in that period that Buddhism was born is called Upanishad, or the period of philosophy. So many schools of philosophies happening in that period, including Buddhism. So we cannot avoid that some influence from Brahmanism or some beliefs, some elements from Brahmanism, or some elements in Jainism and Buddhism are similar because they grew up in the same land.
Maybe I'll move us back to Dhammayatra. I wonder if it's being done elsewhere in Southeast Asia.
Thank you for this because as I introduced, that apart from conflict and violence, this country provides to the world the peace-building efforts also spreading around the region as well. And the most evident example is in my country, Thailand, because we have several peace marches in different parts of Thailand. And if we look, because when I wrote my thesis, I looked into the document, the past documents about the various marches, peace marches in Thailand. And we found out that most of them have influence from Mahakosananda's peace march in Cambodia. Like the one with another popular figure in engaged Buddhism in Thailand, Prabhaisan Visalo, or Venerable Prabhaisan Visalo. He also normally leads peace march every year, campaigning protecting of the environment. And he admits in some of his writing that this peace march has the influence from Hosananda peace march in Cambodia. And also different various peace march in Thailand also admit that they have influence from Hosananda. They got inspired by the legacy of his work.
Can I just raise one more question since my group is starting their Vipassana training tonight? Why is meditation necessary to engage, socially engage Buddhism? Or why, I mean, it's become a very important part of the movement.
Thank you so much for this question, because this is one thing I skipped or I forgot in presenting this. You remember the very first slide I show you the 3 stages. Can you go back to the beginning? Okay. You can see this stage before one come back to the world or to the society and do some engaged Buddhist work, one have to gain the insights from reality. That is this engagement. This is if we put it in the convenient way, we would say this stage of learning is Vipassana stage. Before one work very well or know very well what is engaged Buddhism or what makes influence, what help people really, one have to see things clearly. And Vipassana, from the literal translation, Vipassana means the way to see things clearly. And from the Buddha's life stories, before he come back to preach, before he come back to propagate his religion, he had to see things clearly. He went into the forest searching for the truth, and when he discovered the reality or the core teaching of Buddhism, he come back to propagate. One example closer to us, the life story of Mahakosananda. First, he got educated here in Cambodia. He is the famous student. He's a dear student of Somdet Chuan, the Supreme Patriarch of Cambodia during the French rule. And Somdet Chuan supported him so much and sent him, after he got master in Buddhism in Battambang province, he sent him to India to pursue his PhD in Navananda University, which Mahakosananda wrote in his writing that PhD PhD is from people having dukkha, or PhD means people having suffering. In translation, it expressed his suffering during his PhD there. But there, he met with some non-violent activists with the connection to Mahatma Gandhi, and there he met his Vipassana master or Vipassana mentor, Ajahn Cheng or Napakadol Bhikkhu. Then he followed him. He was impressed by his presence. Then he asked him if I can follow you to learn Vipassana in Thailand. And then his Ajahn or his teacher agreed to bring him back to Thailand. So Mahasananda went to Thailand for 10 years, learning Vipassana in the south and Wat China, Nakhon Si Thammarat province. There he learned Vipassana until he became a Vipassana teacher. So it means he passed by this stage already, the stage of disengagement. And when I went to interview at the airport of this temple, the airport of this temple told me that Mahasananda, after he became the Vipassana teacher, one day he listened to the radio, and the radio saying that in his home country there's a chaos and genocide. And the airport told me that he cried a lot and holding him tightly and said maybe this is the last chance we see each other. After departing from each other, I don't know when we have the reunion, something like this. So after that, Mahasananda get out of this temple and went to work with refugees in several camps along Thai and Cambodia border. You see, after he see things clearly, or Vipassana, he went to work in the engaged Buddhist field. As the story in the step-by-step, if you read the preface, written by Jack Hornfield, a prominent figure of Indian Buddhism as well, you can see the touching moment when people in the camp witnessing the monk walking peacefully and carrying a big bag into the camp. And then when he reached in front of them, he untied the big bag and distributing the leaflets. The leaflets, after he read aloud in a traditional way of Khmer recital, these words in the leaflet saying that hatred never ceases by hatred, but love only is healed. You can see thousands of people weeping after he recites again and again this verse from Tipitaka or from the Buddhist teaching. It's so powerful. As in the society or in the moment of society that many people want to get revenge, fighting against each other, and all the bloodshed taking place, and one person walking in calmness, and saying that, be careful, be mindful, and stop violence. He's not speaking as the person who not affected by this violence, but he's speaking as the person who also were the victim of this violence as well, because many of his family members were killed in that period. So what he's speaking is real, not theoretical or conceptual.
last questions before we thank you?
Relating to what we've learned the past week, how soon after the birth of Buddhism did Angkor convert to Buddhism? Like how it switched from Hinduism, as our tour guide was explaining, to Buddhism? I don't know who this is appropriate for. How soon after Buddhism came to be did Angkor convert from Hindu temples to Buddhist temples?
Let's say, actually, Buddhism, the prominent period of Buddhism in Angkor period is happening only the period of in the reign of King Jayavarman VII. You can imagine many peace activists would explain this better than me. You have to imagine in Khmer society, thousands of years of Hinduism, we talk about class. The one top of the class is connected to divine presence, right? It's divine presence. And at the bottom of this structure is underclass or underdog. But when in late 12th to 13th century, in the period of King Jayavarman VII, whose wife introduced the concept of Buddhism to him, because she studied Buddhism. After that, Khmer society changed into this, has been changed into this structure. The structure of compassion. You can see the faces of Bodhisattva, the concept of building hospitals and residence for those travel in the far distance. Because he himself is also an ill person, he sees the reality of his life. So he takes care much of his people. But just a short period that Khmer society became like this from thousands of years of this vertical structure. Just a short period of this. After King Jayavarman VII passed away, the society became like this again. Because, as you see in the historical record, the later kings destroyed the monuments, many monuments of Mahayana monuments, or the monuments built in Jayavarman VII period. So the society became like this. And so on until the war, until a series of war, until colonialism, until a series of government. And finally, Khmer Rouge tried to make society like this. And big violence. Right? And after 3 years of this changing structure, the society became like this again. So when you ride in the road, if you're riding how to say a big car, next to you is a motorbike, next to you is a bicycle, next to you is a pedestrian. So this structure remains the same. Just a short period that Buddhism changed the society and societal landscape. Is that answering your questions?
Thank you.
But another example. This is Mahayana Buddhism, right? That changed the society. But after the period of Angkor, how to say, falling. After the period of the fall of Angkor, because it was hit by warfare, right? And the middle period, as the study of Khmer history would say, the middle period or the dark age, like a 200 to 300 years after the fall of Angkor. It's called the period of displacement. And finally, Cambodia adopted Theravada Buddhism, which is, you see, Mahayana Buddhism also still connected with the royal palace. But Theravada Buddhism works with community, and especially works with community formation. Like this village also have the village temple. So the village temples attracts activities and social activity and social relations. So after the fragmentation of society, Theravada Buddhism helped recompositing society by this kind of organization.